Shane, I'm gonna let you have the floor. Drew
what?
Brees, with his
Brees.
retirement. I know he's like your favorite quarterback of all time, as reported by Jay Glazer. It seems like he will retire, as it stands. Give me
It
sort
certainly
of
seemed.
your
It certainly seemed
overall
like it.
career of Drew Brees. With him going to Chargers, getting traded, and all that stuff. So, kind of give us your whole career thought. You're the perfect guy to kind of give a wrap on his career for us.
It's weird. The last, I'll always remember the last we see of a particular player in their sport. The very last game, the very end of it, whether it's good or bad. Um, one that comes to mind a lot is Kobe, especially after he passed. Just his last game, he was just so dominant, and
He shot the ball
just
too much. I'll say that.
well, yeah, but still, it was classic Kobe. He got 60 points and got the win. It was just it was fun.
Love Kobe, of course. He's on my wall right here.
Yep. And then you have guys like Brees, who for their last game does not go very well. He threw 3 picks. His last throw actually was an interception, and that's just kind of despite how good his career was, I feel like that's always going to kind of leave a sour taste in people's mouth, knowing that that's how he ended, or at least for him, I'd imagine. But he had an interesting career though. In San Diego, feels weird to call them San Diego now, but in the San Diego Chargers, he going from thinking he might not ever play again, and then going to New Orleans in the midst of their Hurricane Katrina recovery effort, and going there, winning that title, and then even in that whole time when their team was bad, he still was loyal to them, and he still loved the team and the city, and he still put up insane numbers. Some of the best in the league, and I was just really hoping, after all that, after everything he did for that city, I was hoping he could just get one more ring in any of these 4 years when this team was playing really well recently.
So close, but yet so far it felt like for the last 4 years of his career.
Yeah.
But you have to ask the question though: were they really close? Because I never felt like, okay, maybe they were close when they played the Rams and they got screwed out of.
Even the year after that too.
But that was it. That was their chance. They should have been in the Super Bowl then, and I felt like it was a downward spiral from that point on.
Yeah.
To be frank, nothing this season has really impressed me about the Saints. I felt like the Saints had the same accommodations as the Green Bay Packers have, which is they are in a shitty-ass division with shitty-ass
better
team.
This year, it seemed like.
Okay, better.
NFC South wasn't that bad.
NFC South, it's still pretty. There's 2 teams that are decent. The Saints,
Atlanta we'll get to
and the
later.
Buccaneers. Otherwise, don't talk
Atlanta
to me
we'll get
about
to later.
NFC South.
We'll get to later.
NFC,
we'll get to
and then
later.
the NFC Central or whatever it's called.
North. It feels like the Central.
I always want to call it the Central.
The Midwest.
Just because it's like the NFC. Literally,
AFC Midwest.
In my mind,
That's what it is. Really.
In my mind, I just see NFC Midwest. I know it's funny. I'm in basketball mode. I'm like,
yeah, we are all in basketball mode right now.
But basically, it's like, it's one of the reasons I have such a hard, and I've realized it. It's one of the reasons I have such a hard time giving Aaron Rodgers his props is because he's been in this terrible, terrible division in which they've literally.
Oh, the North is probably one of the worst divisions of
They've
the
just
NFC.
the Packers have just munched on these three terrible teams for years, and he's hardly had to do anything. I mean, but that's a separate another. We can do that. After
we will get to that for sure.
Here's my thing, right? The Saints, if they were truly serious about making that push for the final, to give Brees one more shot at glory in the Super Bowl, even to put him in the Super Bowl one more time, they would have gone out in free agency and they would have brought in some pieces
or use some trade pieces. Yeah,
they would have stacked that wide receiver pieces. They would have stacked that line. They would have stacked the defense and not to say the defense wasn't bad, but here's the difference. You know what the Patriots did every time they wanted to win the Super Bowl again? They literally went out and they were like, all right, Tom Brady, we're going to give you what you need.
Not really. I wouldn't say that was the case.
No,
absolutely not. They didn't give him anything.
It wasn't a lot of pieces, though. It was always one guy who made a big impact.
See, I will say
it was a Randy Moss, or
guy.
it was a Randy Moss, or it was a guy on the defense who could really pop off and do the thing. The thing is, the difference is they got one guy. They got a piece. They got someone. They showed him, hey, we're bringing people in. But in this case, I would argue, the Saints have just kind of been stagnant for a while. They just haven't done much.
You have to
show me.
So you have to say a couple of things here. One, you can make an argument that Davenport hasn't developed to that top 10 pick that he was. You can also say that draft class with Lattimore is one of the greatest draft classes in NFL history from an individual team. It is. Also, another thing is that cap situation they had. I think they were -15, -20 in the offseason.
They were bad. It was bad.
It was bad. They couldn't really do as much as they would have hoped, and that's part of it too. So there's a lot of reasons for it. I think overall, I think the thing with the Saints is I think with them and even with the Packers to some degree, we're always kind of taking them for granted because we know they're going to be there at the end or in the playoffs, especially the Saints last 4 years. Yeah, I think these last 4 years put a bad taste in my mouth as an NFL fan. If I was a Saints fan, even more, because even the Rams thing as well. But I think last year there was another one that was it's rough because if there was any time for Brees to win one more, this was it. And also it, and it's in that's what makes it more disheartening just as a football fan.
Also, the last thing I'll say about the Saints is, frankly, I don't think Sean Payton is that good of a coach.
I think he's a top 5. I honestly think
I would disagree with coach. I would disagree with that.
I'm with Robert.
He doesn't do. I think he's a coach who's had great coordinators.
He does the play calling
well. And here's
my thing. The play calling.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's the same sort of scenario going on where I feel with the Green Bay and the Saints, and it's the
Matt LaFleur. Definitely
LaFleur. Ironically, I have more respect for LaFleur than I ever had for McCarthy. I thought McCarthy was not.
I'm kind of with you there. I like LaFleur a lot.
I don't know. I also I'm still very sour on Peyton for the fact that he stood by and let the bounty gate thing happen.
Yeah, the bounty gate thing is
that thing
legacy
will forever
terrible.
Stain his legacy.
Right.
For me.
No, I agree.
And I admit maybe it's very possible that that clouds my judgment on him.
And honestly, that's fair.
Every time I look at him, I just think bounty gate, and I think this guy is an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. So here's my thing though. I mean, with Peyton, I think Shane, you can probably say this more than I can, but it's not just his relationship with Brees that I loved over the past decade or more. And let's be honest, there were moments in his career. I mean, remember, what was it? Andrew Luck was on the Colts, and there were rumors that one off season that he would be getting traded to the Colts. Like, there were moments. There was like a period of 2 seasons. What was it? 14 and 15, something like that, where yeah, it didn't seem like he was going to last long there. And maybe you can make an argument that a change of scenery would have benefited Sean Payton, especially maybe Andrew Luck would have been a good spot. Of course, we know that kind of turned out with Luck. But I think the one thing with me that has always impressed me about Payton, of course, he's still got a long way to go, probably with Taysom Hill at this point, is the play calling. It is amazing how well they communicate and how well he disguises plays. We saw it today with the Jameis Winston play. It's crazy. But I'm sure you can speak more on like why Payton is in the Hall of Fame already, as is Brees, of course.
I mean, my thing with Sean Payton is that he is the reason I think he's good. And again, I'm with you, Brandon. I don't love the guy because of Bountygate and all that, but as a football mind, I mean, he's very adaptable, and he is very creative. I mean, we've seen multiple times in the past couple of years where Brees is out or so and so's out, and he's like, yeah, okay, no problem, and then he comes up with some whole giant other scheme that just works, and you're like, oh, okay,
Taysom Hill this year is a perfect example,
right? Or when Kamara was out, they had two or three of their running backs were out.
Yeah, and Ty Montgomery ran for 100 yards.
Yeah, and then Teddy Bridgewater last year, going 5-0 with him. It's just stuff like that, So
yeah. I personally, yeah, and I think next year, I actually am. Today kind of made me think. I don't know if he's really fully committed to Taysom Hill being the starter.
Because Taysom Hill was inactive today, so it's not a great.
Well, I don't know. Jameis looks pretty good under Payton. Like,
I will say that he'll be nice under Payton. I think we could see an interesting QB battle, because I think there will be a QB battle. That is not just going to be Taysom Hill's job. Keep in mind that Winston's on a 1-year deal. I don't know how many other teams are interested in him. I would not be surprised if other teams go after him.
Yeah, I also think that Sean Payton has said that he's made it clear. Maybe he hasn't specifically said it, like straight up said the words, I want him around more, but he's made it pretty clear that he wants Jameis Winston on the team, like re-signed on the team. Yeah. But one interesting thing that I wanted to talk about is the conversation of the difference between Hall of Famer and legend, because people are calling Drew Brees a legend, and Paul Gallant from 710 actually put out an interesting tweet where he said, Brees is a Hall of Fame QB. Legend, meh. Stinks to go out like this, but we've seen hints of this at the end of the year for 3 straight seasons. You people throw that word around to the point it has little meaning. If Brees is legendary, so are Kurt Warner, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and Russell Wilson, all who have made more Super Bowls than Brees just in that era.
Well, okay, I would say that it's not just about the statistics. He's played 20 years. Brady's played 21 years. It's not just about stats. If you're talking about legend here, let's not even talk about QB. Let's talk about coaches like Bill Belichick, who have lasted the test of time in New England. When you're talking about legend, it's not only about what you've done in the league from a statistical perspective, including Super Bowls. The fact that the guy lasted 20 years at 40, and I know we're going to see it more.
But he didn't do it. But here's the thing, Robert. Sorry, and I'm sorry to interrupt you here.
No
but
problem.
Like, for me, and I'm sure we have different ideas of concepts of what legend should mean in the NFL.
Right, and I think it's hard too. But I think what you're saying makes it extremely hard because there are certain guys that honestly, let's be honest, Brady and Brees are just gonna have that legend tag attached to them. That's just what it is. Like, it's hard to
Brees
take away.
just because he's played 20 years, just because he managed to, like, his body managed to hold up for 20 years. If that should mean legend, if when you won one Super Bowl and you made it to, like, a couple NFC championships.
Right.
But I can also say that I already say, in my mind, I already know down the line that people are going to be calling Russell Wilson a Seahawks legend. Because
I would even say an NFL legend. Can I also add this point to this as well? I want to add.
But I would just before you go on to your point, would you, if I would actually say, I would be on the side of saying Brees for what for playing 20 years, I do believe that is a caveat enough to be legendary. However, I also believe with what Paul Gallant has said that if Brees is legendary, then so are players like Kurt Warner, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and Russell Wilson.
We're missing
amazing stuff.
We're missing the most important point. I cannot believe I said this earlier. This is the most important point as to why Drew Brees deserves to be in that legendary category. Brady, I guess you can't necessarily make this argument. You can. It's a little bit tougher, but with Brees, you can certainly make the argument. Drew Brees changed the quarterback position and changed the NFL forever. He did.
Oh, wasn't Brees the first small guy, sort of?
He was 6 foot. He came out in the league and he played 20 years at 6 foot, and he single-handedly paved the way. Russell Wilson has said this, that Drew Brees was my idol because of his height. Sometimes it's not only what you do on the field, but it's also like if you want to attach the legend tag, it's what have you done for the game.
Right.
But like, what is your historical significance of the game? When people talk about you as a player, what is it? For Brees, it might not be about the Super Bowls. It might not be about the statistics. Honestly, the longevity argument probably won't be a great argument in 20 years.
Right.
It definitely won't be a great argument in 20 years. These guys are going to last till 50 at some point.
Yeah. There'll be medicine and whatnot.
Yeah. Let's be honest. The real argument for Brees would be he changed the way we look at small quarterbacks. And I mean, maybe not at the beginning of his career, but definitely towards the tail end.
And I think
that's where it is. I think that's where it is.
With him, it'll be the same. So it's like the same sort of thing where it's like he came in at 6 foot and he kind of brought the height difference down. And then because of that, you had guys like Russell who was able to come in.
And again, that was done more towards the end of his career.
Right.
That was
and
more
Russell,
towards the end.
And Russell then comes in and does his own quote unquote legendary thing by being an even smaller quarterback and doing his thing and going to 2 Super Bowls. And honestly, in a way, I'm starting to wonder if Russell his career might look similar to Brees's in that he's always fighting. Like, he has really good teams and he's a really good player and he has really good stats and really good numbers and all this stuff, and he goes to divisional games and championships and yada yada yada, but he's never quite able to do it one last time.
But yeah, so I think the true legendary argument is his impact to the game. Shane, what is your ultimate thought on if Brees deserves that legendary tag?
I think he does. I think he's a top 5 quarterback all time, because for me, I mean, like you said, the height thing, and also Super Bowl rings aside, because I mean, at the end of the day, that is a team effort. But if you just look at him individually as a player, he holds records, career highs for like half the major stat categories.
Touchdown passes shifts between Brady and Brees every year. It seems like.
Right. Yeah,
and then Brady's
passing yards, career completion percentage. Brees holds all that, and like most pass yards in a season, Brees broke his own record like 4 times.
And so, I just want to make it clear that I don't put Super Bowl rings as a caveat for like Hall of Famer.
That's why do you think Eli Manning will make the Hall of Fame?
Yes, I do think he will make the Hall of Fame.
That is a tighter argument.
See, that's a case where he'll make the Hall of Fame just because he has 2 rings and just because he beat the Patriots twice.
I'll make a real argument too.
His last name is Manning.
Yeah.
I'll make a real argument too that everybody in that 2004 draft class at the quarterback position should. Rivers should.
But that's the thing. Like for me, like that is the main. Like I've always been a guy who believes that Phillip Rivers should be a Hall of Famer. And there are people who are like, oh, he's not a Hall of Famer. Well, the thing is, if you look at like and that's when you really look at what he's done as a player. I mean, for so long, it was him and it was Antonio Gates. For so long, it was him and Antonio Gates with the and Tomlinson. It was those three. Those were the only three players that the Chargers had for so long.
I remember that one season in 2011 where Rivers threw like an intense amount of picks. Yeah. And the next year he just rebounded. Also, just a report that came out, Brees is taking some time, so he's not officially announcing his retirement yet. So all of this is still kind of coming out and unfolding. Yeah. But obviously
he apparently has a nuts contract though on the table, waiting for him
at NBC. He's gonna be fun at NBC. Shane, any sort of last words on? Or actually, before I finish with you on the last words, Brandon, like your overall thoughts on Brees' career, your perspective as a fan, because that's something we didn't get to.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of football, and I think our generation, people who have grown up through like 2000s and like especially like the 2010s, when I'm like 50, I will always look back at the 2010s and think about like that's, or even like the I would say it's like the 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012 era, pre-Russell coming into, like the 2013 draft coming into the league. The battles that would go down between Rodgers and Brees and Brady and those quarterbacks was
when he was good.
Big Ben. It was so prolific.
Peyton Manning too, even in Denver.
Giants
was fun.
And the Steelers and the Packers and even the Eagles with Donovan McNabb.
Yeah. You guys remember Kevin Cobb?
Yeah. You had these prolific battles between teams that are sadly kind of mid-tier now. Some of them are still really good, like the Packers and the Saints.
Even the perspective on some of those teams has changed. Look at the Steelers.
Right, and it's like I just think about as a football fan, like watching those teams battle it out on Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football is what really got me into football. So even if I don't, at the end of the day, put Brees like at the top of my pedestal, I will always have an enormous amount of respect for the man. I think he's had an amazing career. I think he stat-wise, it says it all. He got his ring, which is great. It's what every player wants. He's been to numerous championships. He's played in the brightest of lights. He's played with some of the greatest players to play the game. He showed what type of person he was during the Hurricane Katrina. I mean, at the end of the day, as you say, like it's what you do off the field, and like just think about Hurricane Katrina and all the work he did to help out there. I mean,
yeah, he's gonna be New Orleans lore forever.
Yeah,
well deserved.
And it does ask one thing I was thinking about during the game is like it doesn't even have to do with Brees, is like I wonder how long it'll be before the Superdome gets renovated, because that place must be like super kind of old fashioned by now.
Yeah, it's I still want to go see it. It's amazing. Yeah. So for me, unfortunately, I feel like this is sort of like my childhood era of football.
Yeah.
Brees, Brady, Peyton Manning, even Eli too. I love those Peyton Eli battles. Once Brady retires, it's a new era, and we're already sort of seeing it. Of course, the early stages of it, but this is one of the greatest eras of football, and in some ways, I think ultimately it does start with Brady, just because his legacy is already done, in certain respects, and could be continuing. But Brees, the one thing I loved about him more than anything was his accuracy. I've never seen someone throw the ball as well as he does. I'll miss having him in the game. I'm excited to have him in the booth. Him and Mike Tirico, hopefully for the next 20 years on Sunday Night Football. And whenever that comes, whenever Alan Chris decide to hang it up and we got Tirico and Brees for the next 20 years, I'm hopeful that's the case because that will be one of the best crews we'll have. I'm hopeful that is the case.
I'm trying to imagine what Sunday Night Football will look like in 2020, in 2040.
Well, I don't know 24. I would say by 2030, it's gonna be Tirico, Brees, and then Catherine Tappan on the sidelines. I think that
robots, cybernetic Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Tirico, Brees, and Tappan on the sideline will be an incredible crew.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see Brees on the NBC set whenever that comes. And it would be a great next chapter to his career as well. So that's from my overall thoughts. Shane, you finish this conversation up?
Wow. Getting emotional. No, I mean, I think you kind of nailed what I was going to say about like my childhood era of football. And I feel like that really ended tonight for me, if that was his last game. I feel like that really kind of ended tonight for me because, Brees, as I said, he's like my favorite quarterback ever. But the reason for that is because the very first NFL game I ever watched was his Super Bowl. And
oh wait, 09. Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I started watching football heavily in 08. I started in 06, I think, but I became heavily in 08, the year after that Kurt Warner Super Bowl that we watched actually.
That was the first NFL game I ever watched, and I just remember not really caring about either team, but I'd like never heard of this. I was like, who's this Brees guy? And then here he is making this comeback, and I was like, wow, this guy's pretty good. I like this guy, and that was my introduction to football,
Right.
And so then now I'm just sitting here tonight watching him. It's like, because my football life began with him, and now here he is retiring, most likely.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like the end of my kind of childhood era officially.
No.
Or at least it feels like it to me, and it's just weird,
Yeah. That 09 season is incredible.
Yeah.
Because the Colts and the Saints were, I think by week 12 or week 13 that year, they were both 12-1 that year, I think, by that point. Or like 11-0, 12-1. They were clearly the two best teams in football throughout that whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
So, that's kind of what, what he means to me. When I look back on this, like Brennan said, when I'm, 50 years old, God willing, I'm alive, then I'll always kind of look back on this era of football, and he'll probably always be like the first guy that comes to mind for me,